Welcome to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac, and on this first time ever Paranormal Roundtable, Hidden in the Shadows edition, this is episode 1 of 2, I believe, of the Paranormal Investigators section, I guess you want to say. I have a team. I have 4 individuals that I have the luxury of having discussion with when it comes to the paranormal investigating. Guys, go around and introduce yourself.
Hi there. So I am Gina Armstrong, and I am from Haunted History BC up here in BC, Canada. And my sister and I have been investigating probably since about 2017. Went public 2020, where we started a website, social media, and kind of are sharing everything, all the places we're exploring, and we're writing about it, taking photos, and we're having a great time. And we're joining up with other paranormal groups in the area as well. And we go to a vast array of local locations for now, because we can't travel to the States yet, but one day we'll make it down there again too. So hi, everybody.
Thanks for coming on.
Hi, I'm Sharice McKinney. My team is Lonely Soul Society Paranormal, and we are in the Pacific Northwest, just outside of Seattle. My team, we've been active for a couple of years. We don't always get to go all together at once, but we really enjoy hanging out in graveyards and, going to some of the more popular places every now and then, but finding and private residences as well. I'm a medium and have been, I would imagine, in some way since birth. And so our team was created because I wanted other people to be able to experience what I experienced by the use of scientific equipment. So that's where our team was born. Yeah.
Well, my name is Oscar. I am with the Induced Fear podcast, and our paranormal team, which was just put together not too long ago, is IF Paranormal. We're here based in Colorado. We go around through local shops, figure out what's going on there when people say there's some type of disturbance anywhere. And then we have a couple of graveyards, one right next door to us, and then also a park that has 2,000 bodies buried underneath it that we love to go to. So, yeah, that's what we do.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Corey Medeiros. I'm from Paranormal Hunters of Mass, based out of Westport, Massachusetts. I started the team, I want to say, in May of last year. It was really when I got into urban exploring and started to experience stuff that I didn't know what it was until I really got into the paranormal. So we started spending a lot of our times in mental hospitals and morgues and investigating, and then we started doing the houses and just linking up with other people and seeing where it takes us.
Awesome. And of course, I am your host, Isaac Sanchez, podcaster, Hidden in the Shadows podcast, and co-founder of Shadow Walker Paranormal, a paranormal team that investigates all through Jacksonville, East North Carolina area, including Swansboro, Cape Coronet, and Hubert. But we look to branch out our investigation areas. And I also have psychic abilities, but not psychic per se. And I'll probably explain that later. But I'm glad to have you guys on this, the first ever Paranormal Roundtable with Hidden in the Shadows. A concept that me and Megan had the idea for a while ago, especially because we have been in contact with so many different paranormal investigators, and being paranormal investigators now ourselves for the last 9 months, I think we have. We wanted to hear the opinion from more experienced paranormal investigators, and some who've started off as well. And we just put the call out for everyone to hey, if you want to come on. And we didn't expect such a we call it outstanding response, because now we have to have 2 nights of this because we have so many people who want to come on. We have to split in 2. But one of the first things I guess I want to talk about is gear. Because I know when it comes to paranormal investigators, gear, you either got the top level stuff or you're using your phone. And I always wanted to know between everyone, do you use any kind of specific gear? Do you have any customized gear, or you're basically just using what you got?
I guess I'll start. I use kind of the customary, like the basic kind of ghost hunter starter pack, but it's always the tried and true stuff that goes with darn near any investigation. No custom gear, but an EMF detector is probably my favorite thing. I like a lot of the simplified and not too heavily involved technology. I find sometimes that the heavy technology, the heavily advanced technological devices can be a bit distracting, actually. And then I'm not sure if I am paying more attention to the technology that I'm trying to manage or the actual sensitivities and the real experiences. So personally, I really like just the tried and true recorder, camera, EMF meter, spirit box. Yeah.
That's very much the same with us as well. So we don't have all the fancy gear. Someday on the list would be a nice SLS camera, would be great. But for now, it's a digital recorder. We use our iPhones. We have a couple of different EMFs. And just, I think just reading the room and using your intuition is a big one. So I think I agree that a lot of fancy gadgets that you're looking down on and looking around, it's really distracting. So we're pretty minimal, so nothing custom. And when we do team up with people, sometimes they have, things that they bring as well. So we do have a ghost box. We have a friend who makes ghost boxes, so he kind of brings his own. But basic gear, and that seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, I agree with them too as well. I mean, basic gear. We have an SLS personally. We use it, I want to say 80% of the time. I think something isn't right with it. It's not. It's showing things that aren't really spirits, I think, because it's weird. But most of the time, EMF, digital recorder, and I use a custom spirit box. I've tried the S boxes and the SB11s, and I think we get better with the custom ones.
So how does the custom one work for you? Like, what did you alter in it that makes it work better?
My buddy does it. Does them, but he solders them and does something with the circuit boards to make them scan through the channels. But I think they do a better job of scanning and they're louder. I mean, have you guys used the Ghost Box and the SB7? You got to use like an external speaker with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is pretty much like a boom box. It's tiny. It fits in the palm of your hand, but it's loud. It's like a Bluetooth speaker.
Awesome. Yeah, we basically use, just like you guys, the basics. I think we recently got gifted a night vision camera. So nice. That was pretty cool. But we really love the EMF and the spirit box, those two. And recently we used the pendulum for our latest investigation, which really did some weird things, which was cool. But mainly the basics. Don't like to rely on like apps or anything like that.
Don't put apps out of the using whatsoever. Because funny enough, my team, we've barely had any equipment to begin with besides the EMF detector. But GhostTube seems to be the most prominent app that we use other than Necrophonics. Yep. GhostTube is about, I would say, 80 to 90% effective, or at least accurate when it comes to asking questions and getting answers. Necrophonics about that same level too, as using for a basic spirit box in your phone. If I had to put any stock in any kind of paranormal apps, it would be those two, because GhostTube we use regularly to communicate, and we get pretty on-spot answers.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, we've actually used that app a couple times. My partner likes to use it a lot, and 9 out of 10 times you get a response. And they're creepy. They're creepy. Yeah. It's kind of like an Ovilus.
Yeah, what's that? Bringing something home, like if you're using your phone, but I guess it's not any different than any other equipment. So,
well, true. I guess this comes to a question, I guess, for Charisse and Gina, and even myself, because I'm not saying anything against Corey or Oscar, but this is the following question. It says, using your senses or abilities versus using equipment. Now, I know Charisse said something about not using technology and getting involved in it and stuff like that. And me, myself, I don't use any equipment to find spirits when I'm out in the field or anything like that. Most of the time, I focus on my ability to help me locate and deal with it and stuff like that. So that's why a big question. Even using your senses of sight and hearing when you're out is probably at best sometimes more than using equipment that could pick up some other activity or other electronic interference and stuff like that. So that's why a question would be: do you find using your abilities or your own senses better using some equipment?
100%. Absolutely. I know that I think that it's as I get older, especially, I no longer second guess my instinct. Like I think when I was younger and I was using technology and equipment, it was validating to really kind of figure out, am I actually hearing what I'm hearing? And so now I would say my own perception and senses and listening and feeling, because of how strange it is when I do hear things. It sounds to me like when you're underwater and you hear people talking above you, above water, is how I hear and sense spirits. And yes, I don't need, like you, I don't need the equipment to find anything. Although I will say I have been surprised because we're not always on the mark. And so sometimes I have had the equipment pop up with something and I'm like, oh, I'm not by myself in this room. So, but I would say definitely I rely more heavy on my own instinct than I do the equipment, for sure.
I would say the same thing, just getting to a place and not, if you are using equipment, we don't generally whip it out right away. So we like to walk around outside, get kind of a reading for the outside of the building or location that we're in. If you're going indoors, just kind of wandering around and just seeing the feel that you get. And sometimes we have people with us too who get a sense for something. So we sort of work together to get a feel for a specific location and then kind of go from there. If we feel something or if we're feeling like, okay, this might be a good spot, then we might get out the EMF or the digital recorder a lot of times. And then sometimes we've caught stuff in pictures that we didn't expect to catch. And then we thought, okay, well, we felt like we were alone in there. But then you look at photos and it kind of really freaks you out.
Also, Gina, do you find like something that has happened with me is EMF in particular can really, as you two probably know, can really mess with a medium's gauge and read sometimes. And so I do like an EMF meter so I can then really determine, like, especially if I'm in an old building, I really like using that to determine, am I actually feeling what I am picking up on, or is it a fear cage? That's a very real thing. So I do like the supplement of technology for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree too. Just, it's nice to have it on hand, but there were times when before we really, went on social media and started really doing this, more intensely, we just went in with our senses. And sometimes you heard things, you had things happen. And if somebody like throws something at you or you hear a voice, you just hear it regardless of whether you have equipment or not. So a lot of times you can hear, taps and things like that. So you don't really need all the fancy stuff. I mean, the equipment's nice just to maybe get some evidence so you can say, hey, it's now recorded. Because there were times when we wished we had something to record or something to kind of say, hey, we did capture something. So it is kind of cool when you do listen back to your digital recorder and you actually hear something and, it's legible, or you catch a video of something that's actually there that you experienced at the time. So
Oscar and Corey, being, I guess, not having psychic abilities, do you ever find yourself just like listening and like feeling out an area versus trying to find something with equipment?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when we first started urban exploring, we actually had a spirit medium who was exploring with us, and she would sense a lot of stuff and be like, hey, did you notice that over there? And at first I wouldn't, but as we got more and more into exploring this hospital, we spent a lot of time there. I started seeing things that she was seeing and hearing, and it was kind of crazy. And then we, like Gina said, we would bust out the recorder or the digital camera and see what we could catch. And I've got pictures from this hospital in broad daylight where you can see nurses in windows. It's pretty creepy.
That's like the battery effect. Like, I don't know if Gina and if you guys have experienced this, where sometimes when mediums bring someone who isn't a psychic medium with us, sometimes we can be like a battery, and then all of a sudden someone's like, why am I hearing the same things you were hearing? What is happening?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes we're batteries.
And I think too, we have more ability than we actually think. Even people who think that they're not sensitive, I think we've all experienced that, where you're either like, if you're, for example, moving and you're looking at apartments, or, you know, sometimes you just walk in the door and you just know, nope, this place just doesn't feel right for whatever reason. It's not, you know, any different than any other place, but there's just a feel like it just doesn't feel right when you walk in. Or I think a lot of us have that, but we just, you know, don't pay attention day to day. So I think, you know, when you go into those locations where there's supposed to be energy, then if you kind of pay attention to that, I think everybody can sort of hone those skills, you know, as you go. So
I totally think that's right. Like, you know, Oscar and Corey, have you ever experienced, well, also too, if we look at this like a language, right? The more investigating that we do, the more we start to pick up on the subtleties in our body about what happens. And then it's almost like regardless of whether you have declared medium or psychic abilities, when you speak a language, you start to pick up the accent. You know, it's almost like your body learns how to react to when you know something is in the room, especially if you've done this more and more and more and more and more. And that goes back to our, you know, caveman days, our pack behavior, where we all used to have this. We all used to have this. And so I think what ghost hunters do, even those without psychic or medium abilities, you do develop them. And that is all about that, going back to our primal knowledge base, which I find fascinating. You know, we stop second guessing ourselves and we start to go back to the sensations we had before language. You know, we just knew. So we all do have that. I totally think you're right, Gina.
Yeah, I have my fiance who does the investigation with me, and our latest one, she really connects when it comes to an area. In the latest one, it was 2 girls who had committed suicide, and the anxiety and kind of panic attacks that they would have, she started to feel all of their emotions in this area. She started to feel their separation anxiety. She didn't want to be separate from me throughout the investigation. And so when I'm around her, like you said, you being a battery for people who aren't, I can barely sense if something is in an area, but that's just either me being scared or actually picking up on something. But when I'm with her, it's a completely different game that's happening.
Right. And that is such a science thing. Actually, my day job, I teach science, and in one of my jobs. And so the battery, so that's the battery piece that I'm talking about. A lot of people that I would say that to are like, oh, that's woo-woo stuff or magic, but it actually isn't. It's physics. It is physics, especially if you're bonded with another human. So your fiance, she picks up on these sensitivities. Your cellular makeup actually mimics hers. So if you have someone who's picking up a different frequency, your cells will start to change and behave like that person. It's pack behavior. And so it's really not that big of a stretch to understand this when it's explained that way, rather than us just saying, you know, it's magic, or I don't know how to explain it. We actually do have a lot of explanation for why that happens. So it makes perfect sense.
Makes total sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think too, group dynamics can shake things up. If you've got, like, either if you're not with the right group of people who are in the right mind frame, or, you know, you just, I don't know, there's just things that can change that can make it so that it sort of closes off any sort of chance for spirits to come forward or for you to sense anything. If you've got, like, just somebody who has negative energy or comes in with a lot of, like, chaotic energy, I think that can kind of shake things up too. So it's not always, you know, it's sometimes, yes, who you have with you as well. So that opens up the lines of communication, I think.
For sure. It's like that vibration thing, right? That we all probably hear, like high vibration and low vibration, rather than negative and positive energy. So if you have someone who's like super anxious and very, very high vibration, then everyone else in that group is going to rise somewhere up to meet that. And then that creates like this mass hysteria piece and this mass energetic piece. And then quite the opposite. If you have individuals who are running, you know, depressed and really lower vibration in a group setting of ghost hunters, then it's interesting to see how everyone starts to kind of lower themselves down, right? And so, gosh, it's so important to be grounded. I don't know if you guys feel the same, like really grounded and really calm and really centered before you go in with your team. And you're right, Gina, like the team dynamic is everything. It really is. Yeah.
The medium that hung out with us was the same way. She always talked about, like you did, Trace, with the grounding and being very clear head before you go into a location, and don't drink the night before and don't do this. Like, she was very adamant about all of that. And it definitely did play a role. If people didn't abide by the rules, I noticed a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And like when we're sick or something, or hey, have a couple of drinks and go in and see what happens, So it's pretty interesting how that changes everything. Yeah.
I think too, knowing the history of a place, because we focus a lot on history. And one of the things that we do is a little bit of research. So I think you go in with some sort of a knowledge about the location so that you're sort of prepared, and so you can be prepared if you're going to speak to any entities or energies around there. Just kind of knowing about the location is extremely helpful. I know some people like to go in completely blind, but we like to do our fair bit of research.
I'm the same way too. I'll research a place for probably about a month before I go. I mean, the urban explorer in me likes to do that, the pictures and the history. And
yes,
I wish I was more like that. I kind of tend to be a little bit reckless. I'm like, oh, sweet, there's this new location. I'll be there tomorrow. And then I'm kind of starting to learn my lesson a little bit like that. Like, oh, maybe I should have done a little bit more research. So I get really excited about a new place. I'm like, okay, I want to be there first. And that goes to that competitive piece, Isaac, that you were talking about. I'm like, what? There's a new haunted location? I'm going tomorrow just to make sure
just to put your flag in.
Yeah. This is mine. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot about what got me more into the paranormal and kind of away from the urban exploring a little bit, because that's how everybody is on Instagram right now. It's like, who can get the best shot and post it now. Where people like me will go, and then we won't post our shots for like a month down the road, or our YouTube channels, because we want to save the spot, Yeah. But people can't even wait 2 minutes. They're posting on their stories as they're in the building. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. No, the same with us. It takes a while for us to go through the photos and, to want to, we'll post some things maybe the next day, just if we get a cool picture or something. But as far as really posting about a location, it takes us a little while, and to review evidence too. Right. So.
Yeah.
Because I take like maybe 500 pictures. You can get like 500 pictures, and then you have to sort through them all. So,
the evidence grind is a thing. Yeah,
going on the subject of being grounded in situations and investigations, the importance of going grounded, or at least having a positive sense of mind, is to avoid attachments, especially going into certain investigations that might be hairy. Or cause for any kind of protection. A better question to follow up with is, what does everyone do to protect yourselves, to avoid attachments, or to avoid attachments after or during an investigation?
I would say for us, we bring things like crystals. We do bring trinkets and things with us to, talisman, I guess you would call them, and then also, depending on where we're going, if we're going, for example, we spend a lot of time in cemeteries. We do bring offerings to cemeteries. We bring tobacco, coins, just kind of do a little, introduction of ourselves before we walk in, and then, do a little offering. And then also, coming in the same way you went, coming out the same way you went in, those types of things. This week, we're pretty much pretty organized when we do that. So you just make sure that you leave them, and you tell them to kind of stay where they're at. So we do tell them to stay, please, stay behind. We don't want to take you with us. So.
Right. I kind of went for blood, Isaac. So after my experience in Jerome, I went ahead and just got the Archangel Michael sigil tattooed on my forearm. So yeah. So prior to that, I would, a couple of members on our team, we actually really like to go with, all of our team members have different belief systems, which I find really valuable for protection. Like we have one of our team members, Doreen, she practices, on occasion Santeria. And so she brings her protective measures. I work a lot with angels, and I'm, studying demonologist. And so I definitely go with Archangel Michael. And then we have our resident Christian member of our team. And so we really respect the levels and the beliefs of each individual team member, which we kind of feel drives up the protection level for that. And then as far as not bringing home attachments, I just don't allow them. And I don't know if that, I don't know how to explain that any further really than I just say, you're not coming home with me. Now I do, however, do this quirky thing of I put a line of black salt in front of my door. before I come back home. So yeah, it's so refreshing to talk to all of you, not feel like I'm the only crazy person in the room. It really feels great. So
I mean, the medium we had on our team was very adamant about, like you said, like, you can't follow us home. Like, she would scream that when we would leave places, you know, this is your home, you stay here. And she was very adamant about burning sage before we went into places and when we left places. I used to do it. I kind of stopped doing it. I don't know if it helped, if I'm in a worse place now, but as far as attachments, I don't think I have any at the moment. I mean, the house I live in is haunted now because of the person who died in it, but you know, I just take it as it goes.
Yeah, I use any type of stones. Obsidian is one, so that I don't have any negative type of things like that.
She's
Yeah, it works. It works well, especially because, like I said, my fiance, she's very open and feels things and really takes it in. So my main thing is protecting her from negative attachments and anything like that. So prayers, stones, crystals, things like that really help.
there's
Now-
so much power in ritual, you know. I mean, it's been like that since the dawn of time with humans, and so I think that this is really just, you know, the same.
well,
Power in ritual.
do you believe in like you're talking about stones and stuff? One of the girls that used to be on our team, she was a Reiki instructor, and she used to make like the bracelets with all the certain stones in them, and she said that the believe would help to keep the energy away from. So I used to wear those too, but I kind of stopped doing that as well. What's your thoughts on that?
No,
Right?
I was gonna say, those bracelet stones I never gave two cares about before I became an investigator, but after I became an investigator, I positively believe in them because they would vibrate on my wrist before my ability would be activated, and I never felt anything like that before. So, and when after investigations we'd find these crystals cracked and broken for the amount of energy we dealt with in investigations and stuff like that. So, yeah, I would suggest wearing those in investigations for protection reasons, especially dealing with energy, a high level energy in different places. But funny enough, sure, my team, is amongst of different religious backgrounds. My wife is, I would say but she kind of follows through the pagan sense of mind. Selene and Athena, she kind of focuses on too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. My lead psychic, who's more of a shamanistic type of mind, he's very Norse religion. To Thor, Freya, and Odin and stuff like that. Same for his wife, and Bashila a little bit on that. We all have aspects of, even myself, I consider myself a spiritualist, but if I had to say a god that I pray to is Watanatanka, the great spirit in the sky, the great mystery, Native American religion.
The buffalo? Buffalo symbolism? Think of white, maybe think of something else.
It's a Native American religion and stuff like that, surrounded by the Sioux tribes and stuff like that. But regardless of the point, when it comes to protection, for some reason, the fights that me and my wife pick, especially our paranormal team, with entities that we come in contact with, the amount of protection we tell entities to not follow us, it doesn't matter to some of them, especially the dark ones who seem to come after us all the time. So when we protect our home, it's the highest level of protection. We regularly salt the house all the way around. We have enough crystals to probably sell our own. My wife puts ruins, because she also believes heavily into the ruins and their protection level, stuff like that, all from every doorway and behind our television and our cell phones, because entities can travel through electronic ways. So the tip about putting a ruin behind your TV was actually, she saw through TikTok, another psychic, some give her the tip, saying that some paranormal shows that you might watch, things can come through because time and space to entities doesn't exist. So it doesn't matter if you're watching something that was recorded 5 years ago, the entity thinks it's now, and it could travel through the TV waves to you if it sees fit. But a protection ruin, a protection ruin would essentially keep yourself protected from it. But you're going to say something, Corey?
Oh no, you were talking about those bracelets, and the funny thing is I still have a couple of them, but she had made me this certain one with like skulls on it, and every time I went to this one hospital, it would break every time. and we could never explain why or what was breaking it. But I wouldn't even touch it; it would just fall to pieces off my wrist.
So that's interesting, Corey. So do you know, I do study demonology, and the funny thing is that what a lot of people don't realize is demons they speak in two languages. They speak by force and they speak by contract. And that is it. And so I've seen that happen before. And when you the investigator, are you the sensitive, or you just the run of the mill human, give weight to something that has importance and has protection and there is symbolism in it, there are definitely sometimes of very particular demonic presences or dark entities that will break that. And what that does is it rattles us, right? It rattles us at our core. Someone breaks our cross on our necklace, or if I get a scratch across my tattoo, or you have your bracelet broken. It's sometimes the dark energies are looking for vulnerability all the time, right? So that being said, I wonder, I'm curious to know if you all experience this in investigating. This has been a common theme lately, and I really would love to hear what you guys experience. Where when I go into a private house or a private residence or any location, it often seems like the layman, individuals who are not like us, who do not hunt, automatically go to, oh, this is a demonic presence, right? Do you guys see that a lot, where people all of a sudden like, this is something evil?
Yes.
For me, I would say that 9 times out of 10, that is not the case. If I look at all of the investigations or all of the residences, it's interesting how much Hollywood seems to have influenced our work. Now, there definitely are dark presences, but for the most part, I would say that most people think that is what it is, when really, like, I had one spirit talk to me saying she really just wanted a nightlight in the hallway. I mean, it was like thing. But that bracelet being ripped off, I've seen that before, and it's like sometimes they will go for a vulnerability.
Yeah, we've never luckily experienced anything dark or sometimes a little bit ominous, but nothing that has scratched us, nothing that's kind of felt like it's trying to get us out or anything like that. So, and we don't really enter people's homes at this point, so we just go to historic locations mostly. But yeah, people's homes, I think, would be interesting just because it's a combination of who lives in the house too that is contributing to that force or that energy. If it's negative, you just have to kind of figure out what the people there, what sort of day-to-day they have, or what sort of, I don't know, what their personalities are like.
But it's not just the energy that was there before them, it's the energy now that the people are
that they're bringing in. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
are they a negative person? Are they, a dark person that's, just, I think a lot of our own mental state can kind of bring things in.
Yeah, I think that's where attachments come in big time too, right? Like,
yeah,
if you are someone who definitely is, a negative person, or constantly looking to, like, I don't know what's going to happen now if this is going to go public, but there's one ghost hunting team where there's one guy who does nothing but antagonize those things.
Yep.
It's just poking the bear. That's how you get demons. So
you know what? I will tell you, in the beginning, because I really didn't believe in it, I was the same way. And then stuff started happening, and
what did you learn, Corey? What did you learn?
I leveled way down. Yeah, I leveled way down because I was provoking the hell out of them too, and I had to stop. It was bad.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be comfortable yelling at them, or if you're trying to communicate with them. I don't know. I don't know. It just wouldn't be a natural thing that I would do to a human person. So I probably wouldn't do that to a spirit either. So
that was beautifully, Gina. That was very lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess we could say you guys have been doing it for years. I just started, but even so, we all learn as we go along, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. For any of what I say in the future of this episode to make any sense to you guys, I think Oscar knows too. We've had this discussion before about my ability. And he knows because we've talked about it and stuff like that. But to I guess everyone else, my ability is so singular and absolute. It is so rare. I doubt anyone has heard of it. Especially even you two being psychics and mediums for as long as you have. And I'll be surprised if you had to say that, because I've talked to countless psychics, countless investigators, countless people have never heard of it except for one ever in my entire life. I am what they call a shadow walker, hence why we named the team in that. A shadow walker, spirit walker, or psychopomp, as the woman I spoke to named Jane, put it. My ability is in my hands, in a sense that I can feel the energy of the dead, the energy they give off to be here in our plane. The electromagnetic energy they absorb, to touch, to they be heard, to be seen. That energy they create to absorb, I can also feel, but also I can take it away from them. And by sense of pulling that energy into my hand and into my body and creating a filter process, that takes time. And then depending on entity, depending on the energy level, how long it takes to filter it, then I express the neutral energy out of my mouth like a breath. That's basic form of what I can do. So what I've learned to differentiate for my hands is the type of entity that I'm dealing with. A left hand energy, the sensation almost feels like when your hand goes to sleep, that tingling sensation. It doesn't feel like that, like it's going numb, but that's the best example I can give to anyone of what it feels like. My left hand energy when I feel things is people, person, a good spirit, essentially. My right hand, when it feels something, is something dark, evil, demonic. When my right hand charges, I call it, that's a sensation. Be wary of what we're dealing with in a location, is which I tell people that I'm with in an investigation. And that's why I wear the Seal Solomon ring on my right hand, because of the entities that I deal with. And if you notice the specifics behind the King Solomon ring, then it would make sense of why I wear it on the right hand, dealing with evil entities. But my ability is only that. And if people ask, can you hear entities you talk to? Can you see them? No, I am left blind and deaf to any entity that comes across from me hearing or talking to them. I can only feel the energy, hence why I can find them. And I can pull the energy if the entity causes problems. So most of the time, well, all the time, I only pull evil entities because those are the ones that can cause problems. I don't like taking people off the plane that want to be there and communicate and talk to you. So that's why I never really ever use my left hand unless to find somebody or feel around and tell you if somebody's there, a person.
Now, how close in proximity do you have to be? Like, can you be, I know that some people who feel things, can be on their way there. They get some images, or do you have to be at the location to experience that when it manifests?
At the location, in the room, or within a good radius of sight and stuff like that. I've we call it remote viewed a couple of times and put myself there, and I could still use the ability there. So it's not like I literally have to see what I'm doing. But that's only one part of disability. The second part is that I can pull an entire area by putting my hand to the earth. If I put my hand to the earth or any base of a home, the wood or the floor, or whatever like that, I can pull the entire house, or I can pull the entire area. I pulled an entire building before, or I pulled an entire ranch before, about 20 acres. I don't know how you guess an acre, but a good radius of an area. And whatever hand is to the ground is what energy is being pulled. So, like, I'm not saying I'm pulling everybody in a location. I'm pulling all the dark entities versus anyone that's good left behind, which makes me almost like a weapon in paranormal investigating, because anytime we deal with anything that's dark or evil like that, I can get rid of it before it causes any problems. And from the investigations that I've done in the past, I've proven that I can do that. Now, the problem is that I can't prove this to anyone. Me telling you this is just me telling you this. I can't physically prove it to you. The only way that I actually can, so far that we've tested, is putting an EMF detector to my hand as I'm doing a pull, and you see the light go off. So you see the EMF detecting the energy that's being pulled to my hand. If I had to go sciencey about it, I am a natural EMF detector, and I can pull that electromagnetic energy into myself and then filter it. That's a scientific form of what I can say that I do. Other from that, that is my psychic ability. So when I say I go in a location and I don't have any fear, that's why. It's because anything that would cause problems, I can get rid of. And I've come across some very dark, very powerful things that I qualify as sand and smoke. Smoke your basic level dark entity, evil person, not a big problem. It feels like smoke in my hands when I pull it. Sand, those are high level darker entities. Those are harder to take because like I said, a sand consistency, they're more coarse, they're harder, they cause problems. Low level demons, I think I'm coming in contact with, those what they feel like. They feel sand entities. But like I was saying, that's the basis of my ability. So you guys understand when I talk about things further on through this round table. So
I'm super excited right now.
Where do they go afterwards? Like, so once you pull them out, where do you transfer them somewhere else, or do you just send them back to where they were? Like once you're done with the investigation, what happens?
The second thing, I'm not killing them. I'm not taking them.
Yeah.
They're basically taking the energy away. So what I've seen before in the mind's eye is like, if you can imagine a person and then I'm ripping off like the hair, skin, body part, everything like that off of them. What's left is a blank mannequin that drifts back into whatever realm spirits are coming from. And they kind of have to start over, back to square one of gathering the energy to come back and talk and be there and stuff like that.
So exciting. So sorry
I dropped that bombshell in the middle of it, but that's I had
the tattoo I have is also from the Temple of Solomon, King Solomon seal, and it's on my left arm. So interesting, very interesting to hear what your capabilities are. Mine are very similar. I tend to be, I'm a neutral. I don't get afraid either, ever, actually. And we have a very similar way. Now, what I don't do is anything, you know what I feel like? I have actually had someone say, you're kind of like a neutral warden. So I kind of go and I'm like, what is everybody doing around here? What are you doing on the light side? And what are you doing on the dark side? And is everybody playing within the roles they're supposed to be playing? That's very interesting. I would be very interested to have some further discussions about this, because I've never met anybody else who's spoken similarly about what my own personal abilities are. It's very interesting that I have the sign from King Solomon's temple on my left arm. So very fascinating.
Well, the theory
conversation.
The theory behind the ring is that the story of King Solomon is that he trapped demons or jinn, depending on what religion you're talking about, in the ring, and he used them to help build his temple. That's the basis of his story. Now, my theory is that the King Solomon symbol in this ring that I have, it's almost an image, a copy of what he had, not the actual ring. If you could find it, holy crap! But the energy that I pull into myself and I take. If I can focus that into the ring, when I pull this energy, I don't have to transfer and filter anymore. I can entrap it here. I can entrap it in the ring, almost like a prison. Now, that's just a theory. It's a theory that me and my other investigator, Mike, are playing around with, that I could probably, instead of allowing these things to come back after I take them off the plane, I trap the energy that they can't come back. Like the source of where they need to come back is entrapped. So
pretty much like freeing them from the location.
Yes, and permanently making sure they can never come back again.
The medium that used to be on our team, she believed that she could actually free people away from a location too. And we actually have a crazy story where she actually tried to get rid of what she thought was a demon from this mental hospital. And I thought she was dying. She literally fell on the floor. She lost her voice. Like, it was kind of crazy where we had to drag her out of there. And then when we were leaving the location, the car went into neutral. It shut off. Like, we were having some pretty crazy stuff that night. And she couldn't talk for like an hour after that. Like, she had no voice. You could see her lips moving, but she couldn't talk. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. If what I'm saying is crazy, but what I saw was pretty crazy. I know that.
I'm pretty sure none of us think that anything that we're talking about is crazy at all. You're good.
Yeah. The strangest place where we had the most activity was in a local museum. We went there and they had an old train car. So it started right from the get-go. We went and we were just taking pictures while the phones were pixelating and things like that, the things that never happened to a phone. And then inside, we had some activity there, but the most we had was in some World War I and II trenches that they had out back. I mean, that area was never active war-wise, but it was just, that kind of brings the question of when you're reenacting something or recreating it, are you attracting that sort of energy? Like, they say also like the Titanic exhibit, when it travels around, people see ghosts on the staircase or, things like that. But we had equipment failures like you wouldn't believe. Like we thought, okay, we watched this on TV, but we actually had those things happen. The digital recorder died, the camera died. We're just, trying to, it was sort of frustrating because the equipment kept going in and out, but definitely there was something there, but just an interesting thought about what everybody thinks about, recreating, or if there's objects around that can bring things that weren't there before.
Well, that was a topic I see you're trying to bring into the conversation. Question.
Before we switch over, I wanted to tell you, did you ever speak to a native elder about what you can feel with your hands and your ability?
It's on my to-do list, believe me, and I'm trying to find one.
Because after we had spoke, I looked up a bunch of things on it, and it sounds like native energy work that they would do with their hands.
Well, natives, certain tribes, what I found the information on it, because believe me, if you try to find any information on the Shadow Walker thing or my ability, it's almost impossible because there's not a lot of us. There's not a lot of psychics or even have this kind of ability to begin with. So it's not recorded. It's cataloged. It's not stories told behind it. And there's no history with it because it's so rare. Internet connection unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You went out for like a half a second.
Okay. It's telling me internet connection unstable. Anyway, whatever. I was saying that it's so rare that it's hard to find any information on. But what I did find with Native American is they called it a spirit walker. A spirit walker is someone who technically they consider a psychic in their tribe, who would forewarn them of any future tribes or other warring tribes would attack. So he was almost like their alarm system in a sense when it comes to protecting the tribe and stuff like that. But yeah, spirit walker is what I heard from a Native American lore and stuff like that. But to come find out, I actually have now all my life, I thought it was 100% Mexican my entire life until my mom tells me you're not 100% Mexican. And I'm 30, mind you. I'm 34 now, so it's about 4 years. I'm 30 years old. She tells me, oh, you're not 100% Mexican. Like, what are you talking about? It's like you are about 10% Native American. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, your great grandfather was a Native American man, 100%. I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice to tell me that now when I'm near mid adulthood. But yeah, the tribe that my great grandfather was part of was the Chitao tribe, which was central East Coast, or not say East, but like central East area, like I guess Louisiana up to Massachusetts and the Great Lakes area, in that area, one of the tribes that was part of the East Coast areas. But yeah, the Chitao tribe is essentially where my bloodline comes from, mostly Hispanic and Aztec and Spanish and stuff like that, if you know Mexican history. But yeah, the Native American part would be the Chitao. But believe me, I have tried finding a Native American elder or someone within the area where I live, because there's a lot of Native American presence here in North Carolina, to discuss this with. And maybe he's heard a story passed down that they didn't share with the white man, essentially, and it got stuck in history books. But amongst the Native tribes, there is a strong history with this ability. So, I mean, that's a possibility that I've been working around with. And believe me, if you can point me in the direction of one, I'd gladly go talk to him.
Oh, I'll gladly help out and look.
Yeah.
I don't know if my old spirit medium would know anything, but she's actually Native American too. And she talks about a lot of the stuff that you talk about to the T. I don't think she called it Shadow Walker. She called it something else, but it's all along the same guidelines as what you're going along as.
Yeah. Anyway, does that question, I think Gina we're getting to, does recreating historical sites or an exhibits or time period, like maybe wearing period piece clothing, recreate or help spirits communicate because they think they're in that time, which it's a true almost a statement, because if you know about spirits, in my theory, when it comes to ghosts and demons, stuff like that, they live on the fourth dimension, essentially where time and space doesn't exist. So, and it kind of correlates when you think about ghosts, of how they sometimes, especially residual spirits, they don't know that they're dead and they keep repeating their time period over and over again, versus an intelligent spirit who knows they're dead and will communicate with you. But recreating a historical event, or even dressing in a period clothing to the spirits that are there, have you ever, I don't know any of you ever tried, or at least seen any kind of evidence of this actually working?
I don't think that I have. Mm-mm.
We never tried nothing like that.
And our closest was being in those trenches, because then we looked back at the pictures and we realized, as we were ducking down with our radios and with our equipment, we sort of looked a little bit like soldiers. Like we had backpacks, we had, so moving through that area, we thought, well, maybe we're appearing like we're looking like, like we're sort of reenacting a specific time. So we thought maybe that kind of kicked up the energy a little bit, because when looking back at the pictures, we thought, hey, wait a second, we're sort of ducking down. We've got our gear in our hands. Well, it might have looked like it was guns or, walkie-talkies or whatever, but that was the most active and draining place. Afterwards, we're just so tired and so drained from being there that it was kind of an interesting spot. I mean, I would love to go back there again. It's really close by where we live, but yeah, it was definitely something there.
I see an experiment coming, because I'm thinking, next time I go up to Northern State Hospital, I'm going to pretend I'm a patient. Let's see what happens. I know some of you are thinking the same damn thing. So,
and
hasn't happened yet, but I'm going to try it. See what happens.
My favorite places to go are the mental hospitals. So that's on my to-do list now.
Apparently, to a lot of people, we already all fit right in anyway. Half of us have been burned at the stake a few hundred years ago. It's fine. So, yeah. That's cool, Gina. I think I'm going to try that.
Yeah,
Pretend to be a patient.
I think if anything, it helps you as the investigator connect with the energy there. Maybe not for their sake, but for your sake in connecting with them. Because they might, maybe that'll make them confused if you show up in period clothing and then they're communicating with you thinking, oh, this is my time. And then they see you take off everything.
Right.
And pull out this touchscreen phone that's going to freak them out.
I think we all should
that makes sense.
Film it. Each one of us in this discussion this and film it and see what happens. If we notice any sort of pattern shift, would be great.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Or proper.
I know people talk about also like playing your music of the time. Like if you go to a place, playing 20s music or 30s, whatever was at the time, just kind of recreating that whole atmosphere just to see if they respond.
Actually, now I remember, we actually just did this recently, and it just dawned on me that you said this. My buddy's been doing a lot of photo shoots with like masks and stuff, and he recently just bought a straitjacket. And me and this girl actually put it on and did a shoot on a bed in a mental hospital, and that's the day we got the most activity. It just dawned on me now. It just dawned. Field trip. Actually, it's getting demolished in November, so field trip quick.
What are you guys doing next weekend? We should totally meet somewhere in the middle of the country and see what happens.
A place that's really been on my list is Brushy Mountain Penitentiary. I want to go there really bad.
Prisons, those places are haunted all the time.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere that you guys don't want to go? Any places where you really are like, nah, I'm good.
I find a place that actually
good with everything.
A place that I know would be challenging, well, even for me, is this castle that's also a hotel in Russia that supposedly has a pit. It's somewhere in the basement area that goes so far deep they call it the pit to hell.
Oh,
I think I've heard of that. I think
I think it was the Huska Castle.
That's
Yeah.
The Huska Castle. Yeah, it has the trap door, and you go. Yeah, and it's supposed to be the portal, like where things come out, and then they were, it was sealed for a long time because they thought that was like the vortex of activity there.
I feel like would be a challenge.
One.
Right. I don't think I can handle the September 11th site. I don't think I can handle the Trade Center site. I think that I think that that would be a very challenging thing for a medium. Mm-hmm.
I'm not even a medium, and my buddy is a firefighter, and he wanted me to go, and I was like, because he went, I'm like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
Auschwitz, I think, would be challenging for someone that has my sensitivity levels to that.
Some places are just have to be off limits too. Like
deep sadness and things like that.
Some places are just sacred ground, and you just don't go there for paranormal investigations. That's how I feel personally. Like if it's too much of a tragic place or not enough time has passed by, you just need to leave her alone.
Maybe more just to explore it and not investigate it at that point.
Like I would be coming more from a historic point, like if I was looking at a place, but I maybe wouldn't whip out the gear or ask anything to come forward. Or
like I want to go to Chernobyl, but I don't want to do an investigation. I just want to take pictures and actually see it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I guess that is a segue into the next topic. One more thing on the history thing. I find that speaking the language surrounding the area actually helps a lot too. And actually playing the music with the tribes, the Chitao tribes that are around the area that we investigate, because we do go in the Croatoan, it's not the Chitao, sorry, scratch that. The Croatoan tribes around this area, because we do go in the Croatoan National Forest to investigate now and then. We find that speaking the Croatoan language of greetings, of hello, how are you, stuff like that, actually allows them to be more friendly with us instead of staying on the outskirts. There's a saying of a hello, how are you, that one of my investigators, Mikey, says, and sometimes we get a response of them saying it back to him out in the woods, which is pretty interesting to hear when you only went out there. But yeah, I find that playing music or even speaking the language to the area actually helps out with them responding. But I guess the follow up with the thing is that you guys are starting to talk about is what, as investigators, do or can we do, or can we start spreading information on to help bring back the ethics to paranormal investigating?
Oh, I got a good one for that one. So Gina kind of touched on that before, where I tell people, when someone hears that you're a medium or a paranormal investigator, we all know there's this excitement and they're like, what? That's so cool. Tell me everything. I think that my perspective about bringing back ethics to this is when someone says, hey, I really, want to connect with so-and-so who passed away, I want people to understand, and I know what I know, and I know this deeply, that individuals who pass away also are grieving. When an individual passes away, if they know that they are gone, there is, and I don't know where they go. I don't have the answers to that, but they're also trying to move into another realm, another dimension. And I tell the living that, when you hold so tight, I want you to think about what it feels like for your own grief. I try to rehumanize spirits and entities. And I think that by rehumanizing them to the living, it can help bring back the ethical piece of this. Nothing infuriates me more when I hear or see desecration of cemeteries and desecration of these amazing active places. And so I really think the only way we can do that is to rehumanize the dead. With the level of conversation about respect. That's actually a pet peeve of mine. They're not entities that are meant for circus parlor tricks and for laughs and hosted seances and things like that. I think it's incredibly disrespectful to the other side that we all at some point will be in. So the rehumanizing of the dead.
Well, you actually touched with that, because we actually came across an abandoned mausoleum that we explored. Come to find out, the family who owned it died. But long story short is punk kids went in there and started breaking apart caskets and revealing people's bodies. And we actually came together and actually called the local authorities and had to pretty much turn ourselves in and turn everybody else in so they would do something about it. Because like you said, respect. It was the pictures, you'd cry of what people are doing. Yeah.
And I think
cried.
too, going into locations, you just have to be really, really respectful, because there was people there beforehand, whether it used to be a house or it used to be a prison. I think you just have to go in with the mindset that you are going somewhere really unique and really special. And it's kind of an honor to be there, whether it was a mental health facility, or it was a jail, or it was somebody's home before that. If it's a historic place, you just want to try to preserve that, and just to kind of go in with some sort of reverence, like, just make sure you're going in with a lot of respect and for the location itself and the people who used to be there beforehand.
No,
Right.
yeah. You have to go in with the utmost respect, because
Yep.
if they're going to be confused on why am I dead, what's happening now, somebody going in there and just screaming for a spirit to show themselves is just going to further confuse.
That
Like,
hurts to hear that. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're not going to do that with somebody who was in a car accident.
No.
You're not going to scream at them to further confuse them. You have to come at them the way you would want to be spoken to if you were just as confused.
Yeah.
I
And there's
think
just
in
some places that are off limits. To me, in my mind, there's just some places that you wouldn't go and paranormal investigate for any reason. So I think the danger out there is that there's a lot of people who are very casual and very new to paranormal investigation. So they don't really think about the common sense side, but there's, just places you wouldn't go. Like, for example, up here, we're going to a lot of the residential schools, and we're, for the first time, I don't know if people in the States have heard about this, but we're finding a lot of mass graves of little kids. That would definitely be a place where, as a historian, I would visit out of respect, but I would never whip out my paranormal gear, go in there and ghost hunt. That is just not the time or place. To me, that's a sacred spot, and it's not my story. So I want to know about the story, but that is not my place to go in there. It's, it's a sacred place for the First Nations to go there, and paranormal investigation has no room in that realm.
I wish people would understand something, the living, and I just, some spirits are so incredibly alone. They have called me back. Some spirits are so incredibly alone, and we don't know why that is, that they call you back for company. And that is, as a medium, the most heartbreaking thing, to go to an investigation, come home 3.5 hours away, and not be able to sleep because I keep thinking about something that said, please don't leave. And so if we talk about transcending across dimensions and time and things like that, the one thing that stays constant are emotions. And I've picked up on that since I was a child as a medium. And so these entities, these spirits, do seem to, the one thing that they keep is their emotional state. And it can be heartbreaking to hear something cry because something has scared them, and when we see this just complete barrel through of ethical boundaries, they are actually still hurting these spirits. It is causing them stress and pain, and sometimes it exacerbates the grief that they had when they were living, and it's very, very, very heavy and very sad. And this is actually why some mediums lose their mind. It's really hard to detach from that level of emotion from a place where it's been hugely disrespected,
especially when you made that type of connection.
Yeah, very challenging.
That's how it was in our investigation that we did with the twins who committed suicide. We didn't know anything going in, which made me feel terrible once we finally learned the story behind it all. And this was a recent thing. I think it happened in either 2016 or 2018. And my fiance had felt all of their feelings, but we didn't know really what was going on in that moment. So after we learned the story, she had a click in her head, like, this is why. Because she used to feel all of those things, the OCD they felt, the the separation anxiety, the general anxiety. So then she wasn't scared anymore, because during that investigation, she was really scared. But when she learned why she was feeling those emotions, that fear went away, and it was this connection with them. So now when we go back, it'll be there to apologize for not knowing beforehand and to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
When
Corey, go ahead, Corey.
when I stopped, like I said, like I told Sharice before, when I first got into the paranormal investigating, I used to provoke a lot, and when I stopped, we actually got more. We had more better investigations. There were better results, and like you said, the whole respect thing. You respect them more, you get more talkative spirits, whether they're bad or good, all the time. And that's a good thing to tell people. Like you said, number one is respect. And these places, no matter if it's someone's house or if it's a mental hospital that had over 4,000 patients.
Well, do you all realize we are witnesses for the dead? Is what we are, actually.
Yep.
We are witnesses for the dead, and that is an absolute privilege. Not everybody is capable of or will go forward with being a witness for spirits. And so it's just a house that deserves the utmost respect and the non-provoking. I'm glad that you shifted, Corey, from that of provocation to more of a peaceful curiosity. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just that we're trying to still tell their story. If there's something that needs to be filled in, we're there to kind of fill in the blanks. So I think that's where when we go in, that's kind of our goal. We learn about the location itself, which is always fascinating. And if there's somebody there that wants to make themselves known, well, then in that case, it sometimes puts us on an investigation and research path to research about a particular person. And we've actually been able to find things, like we were able to find a document like in an old book that we purchased, and we were able to donate to the archives, but we had to be kind of in the right place at the right time to sort of get a feel for looking into a specific person that lived in this house. And so, yeah, just those types of things. I think you just are there to kind of fill in the blanks and to put, more information out there about who was around.
Right.
The research fascinates me as much as it fascinates you. That first hospital that we did, the first one I investigated, we actually did so much research. We found a patient who was still alive and who wrote a book on the place. And we tried to interview her, but she wasn't really about it. But we found a lot of good research on the place, and it was one of my favorite places.
Yeah, that always is so fascinating when you can find out more, and maybe something that nobody else has found out. So that's kind of cool. The apparitions and the ghosts are fun, but the actual facts are also just as exciting for us anyway.
She was 93 years old, still alive. She actually met her husband in the hospital. They were patients together. And it was a real big backstory. She wrote a book. You can actually buy it on Amazon.
Cool. Now, what was going to make my paranormal team almost an enemy to majority of paranormal teams that are out there to seeking fame, which I guess bringing ethics to being a paranormal investigator is not trying to seek fame, not trying to be the next Ghost Adventurers or next Ghost Hunters or that particular kind of show to get your fame out of that, instantly posting videos and stuff like that, only seeking to investigate to catch evidence is the only reason behind most investigators. And hence why bringing ethics back to it, as we've all discussed and said, the respect of dealing with the paranormal and dealing with actual people, not exploiting them for their carnival tricks and stuff like that, that are actually people who died who just want to get their message across. But you have paranormal investigators that are seeking fame, are only out there to catch evidence. Oh, did you see this move, or did you see the spirit thing, or like that? That's the basis of what, and I'm glad all you guys give your answers. And what I said is that my paranormal team almost will be an enemy to majority of those paranormal teams out there, is because what my paranormal team, I'm not saying that any of you guys don't do this, I'm just saying this is what mine does, is every location we go to, after we leave, will be less haunted, because I will either take out everything dark out of the room, and then other psychics who are actually my wife Megan and actually our lead psychic Mike are actually good at good at helping spirits cross over. Those who want to cross over, who are stuck, who have a problem, who can't, they need a message to get across. We can help those ones cross over so they're no longer at that location. I'm hearing talking. Is that somebody?
Not on my end.
I'm not going to be surprised to hear EVPs whenever I listen to this back. Anyway, but yeah, I was saying that my team, what we seek out and to do is not catch evidence. Granted, if we catch anything, that's nice. But our main prerogative, our main mission is to go into a location that has a high level of entities, find out why they're there, help those who can cross over, deal with the dark ones that may be causing problems to people who go to the location, or even keeping some of the regular human spirits behind as prisoners, or they're feeding off them. We've had locations before that we've gone to that have had 3 entities, dark entities. They weren't demons, they're just bad people, almost causing intimidation to the regular spirits of the location, and keep almost like causing them fear and then feeding off that fear. If you can imagine being stuck at a location or a building and having 3 people just consistently going around, beating you up, calling you names, intimidating you, and you can't do anything about it, nor can you escape. That kind of a location we've been to before. And luckily, with my ability, I was able to get rid of those 3 individuals and allow a lot of regular people to cross over who wanted to. And then we tried to seal the building afterwards so nothing could get in or get out, or nothing could get in dark-wise ever again. So that is almost like the same prerogative is what my team is about when it comes to investigating, is a sense that we go to try to make place less haunted. Which
You're cleansing places.
In a basic, essentially, yeah. Which is a big, almost big insult to just paranormal teams that look out there who just want to gain evidence and stuff like that. Because we're going to the location and then they're going to go to it and there's like nothing there. No spirit wants to talk to them because there's no one there to talk to. And those who are left behind know that, okay, this person's only out to, exploit me. I'm not want to communicate with them. So, and that main, I guess, mission statement comes mainly from Lorraine Warren, who I think she said that, people have doctors when they go to sick, they can call the police when something's wrong with their home or someone's, robbing them or a crime, but they have no one to go to when it comes to dealing with the paranormal. And that's what we're for. Her and Ed Lorraine Warren, that's what they're for, is to help people within paranormal, and dealing with that. And that's the kind of statement that my team follows behind, the sense of helping people or helping locations deal with the paranormal and help them understand that we can help you, as a person who has their home and say it's haunted and have a problem or something. We can help you understand why this person's still here. We can help them cross over if they want to cross over. I remember my team had an investigation they did with a woman who wanted to get rid of the spirit that was in her home. And that wasn't so easy because this person wasn't causing any problems. She just wanted to stay there. And she wanted to stay there because she was worried about her garden wasn't going to be taken care of. This older spirit woman who wanted to stay there because she worried about her garden taken care of. So they made a compromise, a deal, essentially, with the residents living in her home that she passed away in, that if they built a garden and took care of it, that she wouldn't haunt them. She would move on. And they did. They built a garden, they took care of it, and they didn't deal with anything paranormal after that. So it's almost like
stuff like that.
It was making a compromise and understanding that you can't just get rid of some of these entities. They're actually there. Now, the people, human entities, good spirits, yeah. But dealing with dark things, that's essentially why I come in contact and getting rid of them, because they don't deserve to be there, because they're only there to solve out pain and cause and feed off people's fear. But I don't know if you guys follow by the same statements as well. Like, you are trying in every investigation you do to help those who are there, to find out why they're stuck there and possibly help them move on.
Something just got knocked over on my dresser.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Yeah, and we've gone to locations multiple times, and you don't always experience something, each and every time either. So we've had to go we've gone to places, nothing's happened. You go again, and then you get some activity. Then the other times, maybe you don't get voices, but you could catch something, in your pictures. So sometimes it warrants a few visits to the same location. Especially if it's local, we can go, 2, 3, 4 times and have a different experience each and every time. So, do they just want to talk to you at certain times, or do other things have to be just right? in the world for them to kind of be able to come forward.
I never essentially had that problem, and I chalk it to a theory that because every member of my team is a psychic or has psychic abilities, and every investigation we've gone to, activity is always high. We never had a night where it's quiet ever. Kind of wish we did sometimes, but other from that, no. It's like we're always making contact. There's always somebody to talk to. Sometimes there's always somebody new, or somebody the same one sometimes. But a few places we've gone to in the past, we try to help those who want to cross over, and get rid of the dark ones that are causing problems. But I think a few times we've gone to the same place, this place in Swansboro, called the Octagon House. And outside the Octagon House is a forest area that we investigated several times, and gone back to the same location over and over again and helped them cross over who needed to be and so forth like that. But there's a few spirits who wanted to stay behind because they saw this as their home and they didn't want to go anywhere else. Especially a little girl named Kate. She, over the Necrophonics app, made her voice known. She always introduces herself, but she likes new people. She always talks. She says, "Hey, how you doing?" Stuff like that. And she's very loving, very kind. She's almost like a guide for the land in the area. And we find that she always wants to stay there. And we've asked her numerous times, "Do you want to leave? Do you want to cross over?" She always gives a no. She says, "I like it here. I like staying here." Like she always over the ghost tube and different things like that. And then the messages that our psychics get, saying that she likes it here. She has a reason to stay here. She finds purpose here. A lot of different reasons. But in cases like that, we find that sometimes some spirits just want to stay because they don't know anything else, or they feel like this is their home and they don't need to leave.
And it makes sense because if you liked a place, while you were living, you probably like it after you're gone. So.
So let me ask you this: when you have let spirits pass over, have you ever had any negative? Like I told you, that medium, she lost her voice, crazy stuff. Have you ever experienced something like that?
No, because I don't let them get that close to do something to anybody, which makes me, I guess, like I said, the unique thing to any paranormal investigation team, because I stop them from happening. And only once ever did anything get past me to not to hurt somebody, but they knocked a digital recorder out of one of the investigators' hands. And it only happened because I was focused on something else. So it was more than one entity at once. But I think after that happened, I got fed up with it. And I think I just put my hand to the earth and pulled the entire area, which made the woods lighter, if that makes any sense. It was like, it was dark. You could hardly see. And then after I did that pull, you could see without using a flashlight in the woods. It's almost like a veil was lifted through the entire area. And then we didn't do anything dark after that. And we basically had a good communications with the people there, and stuff like that. But I have yet to deal with a demonic case or deal with a mid to high level demon, or at least ones that can possess people, which is kind of like a final test. I don't know if you get investigations or any of you have ever dealt with anything on that level yet, but I yet to deal with it. I think it's the ultimate test for my abilities to see if in my, I guess my theory, but my ultimate test to see if what this ability can do against someone who's possessed. If I can pull the demon out of them, or if I can weaken the demon enough that someone can go snap their fingers in a exorcism and it'd be gone.
Yeah, I mean, the worst I've seen was we were at a cemetery, but back to where I was telling Charisse about provoking, I was provoking the spirit, and we had a female who was with us investigating, and she looked down and she had a scratch probably about 3 inches long that was bleeding on her arm, and nobody touched her. But that was to do with all the provoking of the spirit at this gravesite in the cemetery at like 2:00 in the morning. So
that'll do it. What fell off your shelf, Charisse?
I have no idea. Have you guys been watching me watch over there? I even pulled out my camera. If I got anything or not. So it's now, this is actually perfect for people watching. So what I'm trying to figure out is, did a couple of leaves fall off of my plant? Because, right, we have to kind of go with
the logical.
Logical first. Yeah. I don't think that's what it was. And I'm looking and I don't know what fell over on my dresser. I'm not sure. So I took a bunch of
I
pictures.
kept seeing you frankly look over there, though.
Wouldn't it be awesome if I actually got something on camera during this?
That would be cool.
Yeah, very interesting. So I don't know. It was something soft that hit or tipped over on my dresser, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out what that was. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know if I got it.
I live in a place that has activity on a regular basis, so I hear things. Things get moved. So yeah.
The interesting thing though is I don't allow anything in my bedroom actually, and so I have an agreement with spirits because otherwise I can't sleep. I used to get woken up out of a dead sleep. I would hear like conversation. I'm like, listen, I gotta go to sleep, and so I have an agreement.
Yeah, everyone hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
She answered you.
I did too.
Yeah,
I heard something too.
A woman answered you. She said yes to your statement. You said you have an agreement. She said yes.
Well, like you heard a whisper, right?
Yeah, right after.
That's what I heard too.
Her name is Lorraine.
Not Lorraine Warren.
No, not Lorraine Warren. Wouldn't that be amazing? No, yeah. Lorraine has been in here. Lorraine is the newest. This is freaking crazy. Lorraine is the newest spirit who's been hanging around my room. And Lorraine and I have an understanding. She's very excited that it's like being in a foreign country and you find someone that speaks your language and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to you. So that's funny because she has been the one who still tries to talk to me in the middle of the dang night. So that's really interesting. And I actually on my Instagram page have a recording of her coming through my spirit box. So that is amazing that you guys just picked up on that during your...
Yeah, I heard it clear as day.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Lorraine. Remember, I'm not sleeping yet, but when I'm sleeping, I need to sleep. So welcome to the land of a crazy medium. We don't sleep. Yeah, that was amazing. That was awesome. Anyway, so so I going back to like the going in and removing like the haunt, basically making a place less haunted. I think that the only individuals who think that is like, that you're the enemy of other paranormal teams are people who work from an ego base. So, if there are in fact other teams that go in after you do and you make it less haunted and they're butthurt about that, well, maybe there's a little bit too much ego in their investigation. Sometimes I'm happier than hell to find no evidence of anything in a place, So I just think that like a lot of this competition, you being looked at sometimes as like the enemy of the run-of-the-mill fame and fortune seekers. That's their ego problem. And then honestly, I question the legitimacy of groups like that. I really do. I question the integrity of groups that are just really looking for fame and fortune and things like that. And I know I'm not going to make many friends by saying that stuff because we know who runs the entertainment part of this. But if they have a problem with that, that's their ego. And I think it's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, And
so there's a lot of like amateur groups out there who kind of want to be, ghost hunting, but they're just, going through the motions. There's a big difference going through the motions and really investing yourself in doing this, because doing this for real is exhausting.
So exhausting.
It is.
So exhausting. And I also feel like this might be a little bit too mystic for actually we've talked about it, whatever. So we just heard something come over our speaker.
We heard whispering. So
we did. So thanks, Lorraine. So I wonder if I also feel like these things are some kind of calling that all of us tend to have. Like, why are we drawn to these callings that we have to investigate, to research, I sound like the X-Files right now, to find the truth. The truth is out there. But I feel like there's a respect level that if we have been given this seeking or this divine gift or whatever you want to call it, I feel like there's a responsibility that we have to do it. And it's unfortunate that there is so much competition, that, oh, well, he sucked out all the ghosts. Thanks a lot, Isaac. You sucked everybody out of here, but
I think too, the one common thing I found with people who do this for real, if you want to call it that, is we were interested in it from a very young age.
Yeah.
Like that seems to be a common theme. Like you didn't know what it was. You didn't know that it was paranormal activity, but you saw something, you heard something, and you had repeated experiences enough to where you thought, hey, I'm kind of interested in ghosts. And, you're like 8, 9, 10 years old, but it sort of carries with you. And that's kind of what happened with my sister and I, as we went on a ghost walk like years ago, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And we thought, hey, you know what? We really still love this stuff. So let's start kind of digging into places. And then as the more you dig into places, the more you find, in a way.
We're like the kids that were never cool that grew up and now we're cool.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the exploring plays a big part in it too, because you don't think you're going to find spirit activity in certain places, and then you end up finding it. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, I don't always go looking for the paranormal activity, but I always have my spirit equipment with me. I always have spirit boxes and everything ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is a good another topic question. What essentially, I know most of us experienced stuff since we were kids, but what made you, or what experience wanted you to get into paranormal investigating to begin with?
I think with us, it just started with a project. We just wanted to share. During the pandemic, we did a project where we did a haunted calendar. Like we did all the locations that we visited because we couldn't travel at the time. So once we started kind of digging into that and we saw that people responded to it, we thought, well, this is something we can actually share. So we started looking at more locations. We started going more places, and, we set up a website and social media and all the rest of it. So it just it was inspiring to get feedback and to meet other people who are into paranormal investigations, into history, and kind of just wanting to share it, because I think there's just more to the story, and there's a lot we don't know. So that's always just the questions about finding, what is out there, and seeing if people have this, similar, like a lot of paranormal investigators might not want to share those things, but we want to share and we want to learn too. So we're fairly new. We haven't been doing it for like 10, 15 years, but you want to learn as well from other people and see what they've got to say. And there's some really, good stuff happening out there. So we've certainly enjoyed our time.
I think
you learn something new every day.
Yeah. Go ahead, Oscar.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I had a paranormal event that happened when I was really young, and that's what really set me on this path. And like we had all said earlier, this was kind of something that was uncool at first, and now it's a really cool thing. So once I found out that people were talking about it through podcasts and I was seeing people post on social media, I decided to dive into it further, and actually be able to talk about it is what felt great about doing this. Because when I was younger, like, my father had passed away when I was 7, and I remember making a call out to the ether, like, anything, just let me see my dad one more time. And that's when something dark came through, and it kind of messed with me as a kid. And then that set me on a path of, what is this? How do I get rid of it? What else is out there? And it just grew from there.
Yeah, I got involved because I got tired of being alone. When you are the weird kid, I got involved in this for the validation. So I would have some kind of science-based evidence to back up what I knew was my truth, but what I couldn't really tell anybody else. I didn't come out of the crazy closet until later in my life because I was embarrassed. Especially as a young kid, knowing what you experience in your bedroom and with spirits and entities and things like that. And then you get shut down as you grow, right? You get older and you're like, no, that's not what you heard. No, that you didn't hear that. No, there's nothing in your room. It was very isolating as that kid. And so this has been something that I don't use it for validation anymore because now I'm comfortable with my abilities. But it was crucial. Dare I even say, to surviving, my early 20s and being so different. So the science research, the paranormal and true investigation has been very, very validating, for being a different type of a human being, and the community is really awesome. As long as we don't mess with the egoic ones, it's super great.
Oh yeah, we find it really inspiring to keep going because it's, there's a lot of good feedback, and you get to be on podcasts, and you can, kind of share, and it's exciting when you hear other people experiencing the same things. Or I remember getting our very first EVP, which wasn't that long ago. So it was about, I would say 8 months ago. We're at a haunted shipyard, and when you hear that thing come through, you're like, oh my gosh, want to hear that again, because there's something out there.
I kind of want people to stop being assholes to each other in like the mortal realm. And, it seems like compassion in this mortal realm doesn't work anymore. But maybe if people start realizing that, hey, this actually isn't all there is, and you might want to put yourself in check a little bit. I also feel like part of what we do is to say, you better wake up. This isn't all there is. And so, that's also a gift and a responsibility that we have. I truly feel that. It really is something that wakes up humans. And the more evidence we have about these things, it shakes up people's existence. We've all seen it when someone wants to tag along on a hunt and they're like, no, I don't believe in this. And the next thing you know, their entire belief system is turned upside down. And I've seen it make people a little more empathetic, a little more cognizant of how they are treating other people in this realm. And so, it's almost like soul work sometimes. So, yeah.
Corey, what got you into paranormal investigating?
Just like the urban exploring at first. Like Cherie said, being young as a kid. I mean, I grew up and living in a haunted house too, but it's something about abandoned buildings and finding the old stuff got me really crazy about it. And I would spend a lot of time in this hospital, and I just started hearing things. I would see stuff walk down hallways. I could literally like see shadows and stuff. It made me want to investigate. So I started buying the spirit boxes and the EMF detectors. And I was doing it on my own for a while until we actually formed the team. But it was all the experiences I had. I wanted to prove to people that what I was hearing and seeing was not bullshit, because it's not.
Right.
Now, I have been involved with the paranormal since I can remember, even before I met Megan, and it got more turned up than it was before. My ranch that I speak about on my podcast, my infamous ranch that I've experienced, Oscar knows, that I've experienced about everything you can think of paranormal, from ghosts to a possible cryptoid to aliens, to seeing a shadow figure of a big little Victorian girl in all black yell, "Wake up!" at me. Yeah, that wasn't fun.
That would freak me out.
But yeah, everything you can think of on this ranch I experienced. And this is a ranch I grew up on in Texas. And after I left it, I moved out, and I started living with Megan, my wife right now, who is a psychic medium, and I think holds about, if not all, the psychic abilities you can think of, which is strange for her. But she's shown more abilities than I think we can count. But it turned up because everything we experienced together, from seeing doorknobs rattle, from I've been scratched, grabbed, touched, heard my voice called, seen a person walk around the corner, everything involved with that. And this is before we even decided to become investigators and stuff like that. We dealt with this our entire life. And Megan finally giving into, but accepting her abilities and not ignoring them, not pushing to the side, not being afraid of them. And as soon as she started adapting to them and appreciating, but accepting them and actually learning to control them, is when we decided to become investigators. And through investigating, I was always curious about the paranormal. I always wanted to know what happens after we die. Why are some of us still here? Knowing for 100% sure that ghosts exist, that tells me that there is an afterlife, that there is another, you do have a soul, you do have an essence of yourself that exists after your body dies. And wanting to know from firsthand experience from someone who is dead, telling us what it's like from their side and stuff like that, and even helping them, some of them, and the messages that Megan gets from her now abilities and stuff like that, is dealing with it paranormal my entire life, and then wanting to now investigate it. But now with my current ability, I actually have a purpose to what I'm doing, is not just to validate information or even investigations and stuff like that, but to help people who are dealing with things, and not just people who are alive, people who are dead, that are dealing with things that are hurting them, harming them, and keeping them in prison in certain states of fear. But yeah, after funny enough, as after I got this ability is when I became an investigator. So I actually wanted to be an investigator a long time ago, but never could find people to actually go out with and stuff like that until I moved here, where I'm in North Carolina, and joining an investigation team, and then using my ability to basically keep the team safe and also deal with dark entities out there that we deal with at normal basis. I've never been to a location where there's nothing in dark. It's always one, at least one entity or something.
I always
there.
saw that one, like there's the one in the corner.
Yeah.
There's always one in the corner. There's always the one in the corner. Yeah. The one in the corner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
they're always somewhere.
Yeah. I guess another question, because we're going on almost 2 hours. I know we could talk all night about this, but I guess one of final questions, but something that I always want to know from investigators and stuff like that is, what is an experience that you've experienced that either scared you entirely, like there's a location that it was like too much to handle, or experience that really enlightened you to the paranormal? Not everybody at once.
Okay. So there's a lot, right? So I'll pick the most recent. When I went to the Jerome Grand Hotel, there were so many weird happenstances that led up to us even being able to go to this hotel. I was on the phone booking the room, and the room that I wanted to go in, of course, was room 32, which is considered the most haunted room in this hotel in Jerome, Arizona. And I said, hey, any chance that room 32 is open? And the person at the front desk was like, oh no, there's like a waiting list for two years and stuff. And then he went, wait a second. It just opened. And I'm like, book it. I don't care how much it costs. Okay. So I went down there. And while I was down there, strangely enough, I was going to do my own investigation with one of my team members, my best friend, Tammy. And I was told by the front desk, hey, you're the medium from Seattle. And I said, yes. And they said, hey, by the way, there is a big paranormal group. Longhorn Paranormal actually was there. And they said, can we tell them that you're here? And I said, sure. So I couldn't figure out why I was picking up on so many. And I think you might understand what I mean. So many different grids of emotional patterning in this location. So many different levels and layers where there were residual haunts, and there was a dark entity hanging around somewhere. And there were some residual, there was 2 suicides in the room that we stayed in. And I actually was able to go on a tour in one of the wings of the hotel. It used to be a hospital also, that was not renovated. This place, I couldn't figure out why the furniture creeped me out. The furniture was purchased in Nazi Germany. It was all furniture that was confiscated by the Nazis from Jewish households. So basically I'm like, oh, okay, so let's have a base layer battery going on here of negativity. Over the course of last summer during the pandemic, there was a group of individuals who broke into the hotel who drew Ouija boards and summoning sigils all over the back of pictures in a lot of the individual rooms. In the wing that I was able to go into, I couldn't figure out what was bothering me that was underneath my hand on a wall. And then I saw the photos. There were many upside down crosses, the very, very typical marks of, negativity and demonic, amateur demonic things, let me add. Basically, there's a portal. A portal was opened. I went in knowing, like you had said, Isaac, that you're not, there's not really much fear. I don't have much fear when I go in. I know what side I'm on. I know what my role is. And I knew there was an entity in there. His name was written on the wall. And if you all are familiar, once you have that name, you have a lot of the control. You also have to be very, very careful of saying those names out loud. And anyway, investigated the place. It was very, very heavy. I caught a figure in a window. It's also on my Instagram feed. And I kept hearing, let me out, let me out. And so ignored it, had a great REM pod and spirit box session that night in the hotel room. I went to bed that night and I had the most horrifying lucid dream I have ever had in my life. We had our phones ring at 3:00 in the morning, ring and ring and ring and ring, and nothing on the other end of the phone. The most terrifying, lucid, grotesque dream I have ever had. I talk about it again on my Instagram page. And then I got up to go to the bathroom and almost passed out. And I had to lay down on the floor for a while before I could get myself up off of the floor. And I knew there was something in that room with me. That changed everything. I got my Archangel Michael sigil immediately when I came back home. That investigation really changed everything with me as far as how to be cautious and careful. When you are sensitive and you work in maybe an angelic realm, you become a target. So that was a very interesting thing with me. I was able to say, no, go away. And he listened, but wow, was it intense. Would I go back there? Of course I would, because we're all nuts. Yes. But that was a very eye-opening experience for me. So most recent.
Yeah, I can't say I've had anything that intense happen, but one of the crazy experiences that we had with me and my fiance before we came out to Colorado, it's when she lived in California with me. I lived in Victorville. I don't know if anybody knows where that's at in California. But there's a road called Elevado Road. And apparently there's so many car accidents already in Victorville, but that road, because there's a certain bend, people crash there all the time. You see the spirit of a woman on the side of the road, classic type things. And I thought, oh, this is just like one of those classic hauntings where you see somebody on the side of the road, or the classic you'll be pushed up the hill type of haunting. So I just went to go do it for fun, me and her driving there. As soon as we hit the threshold where the activity is supposed to be, the car starts going haywire. The lights are flashing inside the car. There's a message that keeps popping on saying to shut off engine now. She starts freaking out and panicking. And I want to shut off the road, shut off the car, but I also want to get off of the road at that time. So I keep pushing the car forward. As soon as we get off of the road and turn away from it, the car goes back to normal. So I had to test it again, because again, why not do that? So I turned back around and we drive through it, heading back home. As soon as we get through the road again, it just starts going haywire. Radio starts going in and out, changing. Lights are flashing. It's saying oil pressure too high. And now it's saying shut off the engine. And once we get through it again, it's completely fine. And there was nothing in that area. No houses, no any type of anything that would probably give off enough energy to mess with the car. It was just desolate desert. And I have no explanation for why the car completely went haywire and wanted me to shut it off on the road. But it was pretty crazy.
That's spooky.
Yeah, it is. That is. I mean, that's also like the story we had in Norwich when our medium tried to get rid of that spirit. She had no voice. We got in the car and my buddy put it in drive, I want to say 3 or 4 times, and you would actually watch the shifter go into neutral and the car just start acting the same. Like Oscar said, haywire, lights going crazy. The wipers were on. He didn't touch nothing. And finally we were able to get the car in drive and get out of there. But it was a crazy night. And I remember waking up that night like it was replaying. I woke up as a dream, Charisse. That's what it felt like. Like I was still there, but I was woke up in my bed, sweating, same thing. And like all I could hear was her like trying to gasp for breath and try to talk. That's a very crazy location. And another note, I actually broke my ankle at that location, and I don't really know if it was my fault yet or if I was pushed. I just leave it at that. So, I mean, do I go back? I go back probably once every couple of months, and I will go until it's demolished. But
Yeah, one of our most intense locations. It wasn't scary, but we had a bunch of things happen all in the same night. So that was kind of interesting. We were staying at this old inn, and we weren't really intending on really investigating at that point. We were just wandering around. And at one point we did hear a voice that said, "I see you." So we heard that, kind of a whispery voice. Then we thought, well, let's just, sit outside. We're going to do the whole question answer thing. And we did hear taps and things like that. So at one point, a cork flew across the room, and this place was empty. So just a lot of different things. Again, we were sleeping. Music came on just out of the blue. It was like 4:30 something in the morning, and it was a very active location. So a lot of things that we could not explain. So it was something.
Yeah. One of the most visually seeing things, I'm not seeing shadow figures, which is almost like a basic thing that we go through in investigations. But it had to do with the library in Morehead City, which is a coastal city near about 30-40 minutes away from us. But the library itself is historical. It's been around since like the early 1900s or late 1800s. It's changed hands many times over the years. It was originally a pediatrician's doctor's office, but it staged as a hospital for children during the tuberculosis crisis in the early 1900s and stuff like that, and through the Spanish flu as well. So it actually did have a lot of people die in it, especially kids, which we communicate with the children's spirit that are there. But the dark entities I spoke of when I took out 3 to help the others pass on, this was this location. This was this library. And I took out a few of the main ones up on the upstairs area. There's only really 2 that were causing problems. But we went down to the basement of this building, where I wanted to do the pool so I can pull the entire building, everything around it. We had ghost tube on the entire time, us walking down. It was me, myself, and our investigator, Mike, and another investigator was with us as well. And while we were down there, we had the ghost tube going, and I was trying to find a proper place to pull. And hearing over the ghost tube, usually anytime we hear the word kneel, it tells us that we're dealing with something that thinks it's demonic or is demonic, because it wants us to kneel to it. So when it tells us to kneel, usually it's a telltale sign that we're dealing with something that's evil, or at least thinks it is. And we kept hearing that, like, kneel, stuff like that. And then as we got to the basement, before I did my pull, the 2 other investigators were doing the Lord's Prayer. And we hear of a ghost tube, shut up, be quiet, go away, right? A lot of basically, trying to tell us to get out of there. And so I think our investigator, Mike, he got frustrated with it. He said, "We're not going to leave, right? We're not going to go, but you are." And that's when I did my pull. And let me tell you, the energy of how this felt when I pulled it was intense. It felt old. It's that thought in my head, like old, and it felt cold. And it almost took me out. Not it took me out, but it made me a little dizzy when I stood up. But after I did the pull, I took everything out, and everything was lighter in the building. It felt lighter. We look up to the ceiling, and granted, the ceiling in this basement was maybe, I'm 5'10", and the ceiling is maybe like 6'2", 6'3". I mean, I could clear it, but if you're a little tall, you probably hit your head. So I mean, I could touch the ceiling with my hand if I stood up straight. We saw finger prints, not fingerprints like a handprint, but like someone had their fingers and like slid across the concrete. And they were sliding in the direction of where I was standing, where I did the pull, or when I was kneeling and doing the pull. Almost like I was pulling something in, and it was grabbing by its fingernails onto the ceiling as it was being dragged to me. Now, we couldn't have done these, for one, because no one touched the ceiling, but also because the size of the fingers were twice the size of mine and anybody on the team. But yeah, and that was like the most visual evidence of what I did in an evening.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
There's something in my mind that's sparking about that. Are you sure it was Neil? Because there is a demon named Neil.
It was Neil, like get on your knees, like Neil. Kneel. It came over the ghost tube. I'm not saying ghost tube was accurate about what the word was. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Not familiar with ghost tube. I'll have to look at that. I'm thinking, oh no, there might be a bigger issue than you guys have if it's so okay.
What's strange is that after we did this poll, after I did the poll, and after we basically got everything evil out of the building, Mike was in communications with his spirit guide that spoke to the other other spirits in the building, and he was speaking through them, almost channeling the spirits of the building, and they were asking, "Who am I?" Speaking to me. And I asked, Mike said, "Are you asking me that, or they asked me that?" He says, "They're afraid of you. They want to know who you are." So you took out 3 big bads that were causing them problems, and you just took them out like nothing. They're afraid. They want to know who you are. I simply said that I am the Shadow Walker. I am only here to take out darkness. If you do not seek to cause pain and hatred or anger to other people, you have nothing to worry about. And I think Mike said that was a good answer, because they're not afraid now. But that location was very impactful when it came to experience things and communicating with the other side.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. We're all cool kids now. Yay.
But I think it's about the time to wrap it up. I do appreciate all you guys coming on.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
This is great.
Way fun. I feel like we all need to like now meet up on occasion for like Zoom tea and conversation. So
we should.
Really
should. That seems like a good idea. I mean, we're all on Instagram. We can all link up and talk.
This was kind of easy. So
Mm-hmm.
This is a great night, or episode 1 of 2 of these Roundtable Paranormal Investigator sections. So everyone watching and listening right now, you can check out this one and then probably release the second one within the time period of when we are. So if you like this one, check out the other one. Also, just so everybody knows, where can they find everybody?
We are on a website. We have hauntedhistorybc.com. We are on Twitter as @hauntedhistory2 and Instagram @hauntedhistorybc. So.
And I'm on I'm Lonely Soul Paranormal on Instagram. I have a TikTok as well. So yep.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Induced Fear Podcast. Facebook, the same thing. Also on TikTok, Induced Fear, and then our YouTube channel, Induced Fear Podcast.
Same thing with me, Paranormal Hunters of Mass on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we do a little bit of a TikTok too. So we're out there.
All right. I do appreciate everybody coming on. And as always, we'll catch your weirdos in the next one.